Bingo.
Bingo, we got it. All right. Mallory, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anila. It's
We're
been a
doing
while. Appreciate
this.
you getting this all together.
Yeah, it has been a long time. I'm very grateful to whoever decided that this week is BFRB Awareness Week because what we get to do is talk about BFRBs not in our closed communities where the healing happens, but it encourages us to share outward so that other people can know and understand these conditions. So I'm really, really grateful to be having these conversations with folks this week to spread awareness. So, Mallory, thank you for being here and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so it looks like we've got some people from different places.
Yeah.
I am currently based in Philadelphia, where I recently finished up my Master of Social Work. I came into this type of work because I've always been fascinated by people's stories. And I've also always been a little bit perplexed by them and perplexed by my own mind and how it works, and why I do the things I do. And my family is actually from Ireland. My dad kind of immigrated to the US in the 90s. And so I think thinking about how kind of like cultural perspectives towards mental health shape access to resources and cultures of stigma has often been kind of present in my thinking. And so it really like brought me into this work to understand myself better, and hopefully in a way that then can be, destigmatizing to others. Um,
Yeah. I mean, so it sounds like you did sort of this internal processing to get to where you are for the work that you're doing. And before we even dive into that, just very quickly, we've been talking about BFRBs. And you may not know what that acronym stands for. And that acronym stands for Body Focused Repetitive Behavior. And it's easier to explain it by telling you examples. So things like hair pulling, skin picking, nail biting, these are seen as like common, habits, right? Sometimes bad habits. And the truth is that when it gets to a debilitating degree, when it's creating a pain in your life, both the physical from the damage of the hair being bald or from the skin infections, but also that internal sort of, negative self-speak or shame or worry, anxiety of being found out, then that's when it becomes more of a mental health condition, body focused repetitive behaviors. So I just wanted to set the stage a little bit. And Mallory, there's a
yeah.
question. So in Ireland, check out BFRB UK and Ireland. They're a group, a nonprofit based in the UK and Ireland. So check them out. They are on Instagram. They have a website. They have support groups, and hopefully you will be able to find your in-person support there as well. But Mallory, tell me, how did you connect and tap into the BFRB community? What was sort of the first dip?
Yeah. So, I mean, I really appreciate you kind of giving, such a clear, straightforward example of BFRBs and explaining the term because it can feel pretty wordy. And I think that's something we get stuck in sometimes is all the jargon. I had no idea what a BFRB was until probably the end of high school. I knew that I picked up my skin a lot. I knew that um, it was maybe more than other people, or I thought about it more, or it was really stressful, and made me feel really negatively. But I didn't know that that was a thing, really. And I also, like, as I've pursued this path as a mental health professional, I found that there's a lot of us who still don't know what that term means, whether it's professors in my grad program, or dermatologists that I've gone to see. And so it's really brought me to this work and made me appreciate the work you're doing as well in terms of raising awareness, not just within the community, but also, with people who are care providers, and provide support.
Yeah, it's so important to get the right care, right?
Yeah. And
And
it's
it's
hard
hard.
because the research hasn't really caught up yet.
Yeah,
There's not there's not enough. So for anyone out there who is interested in research, I always like to say, as an early career professional myself, there are so many opportunities, and I think it's really powerful. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think it's important to have people in research who have lived experience, and can draw on that, because I find that we often approach the work maybe with more empathy, than people who are looking at it from the outside.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm seeing that trend in a lot of different places of how lived experience is a necessity for research now, like as like having someone on as a consultant or on the team of the research itself. And that's how we started as well, as through our lived experience. Tell us a little bit about, so you mentioned grad school, you mentioned your sort of your, it sounds like you're in your early days of being a therapist, being a social worker, if I remember correctly. Where, what got you to there? Like what kind of research were you doing when you were in grad school, and what are you doing? Well, yeah, let's start there. What got you to there?
Yeah, sure. So I think, well, I didn't know I wanted to do research going into grad school. I went down a social work path because I really liked, that the education mixes, for those who aren't familiar, it mixes like work experience with classroom learning. And so that felt important to me from a similar angle of, having lived experience. If I'm studying something, I kind of want to be immersed in it. I want to know, what people are experiencing every day. And that's really like what social work looks at. It's looking at, people's experiences within their environmental context. And I think that's so powerful, and we can't discount it. And from research, I mean, it really did come from those conversations. I was in a mental health, diagnostics class, and we didn't talk about BFRBs, as a diagnostic category. And it just made me think a lot more about how we're training healthcare providers. And look, I mean, I think it's great to study people with BFRBs too, right? And study those conditions. But I think it's also really critical that we study the people providing care, because there's already so much kind of stigma and shame attached, that oftentimes people aren't seeking help, or they're not reaching out to be part of a research group. They don't know the term BFRB when they see it on a poster recruiting subjects. So I really thought about, like, how can we flip the script, and look at these points where people are interacting. It's much more likely for someone with a BFRB, to go see their dermatologist, to go see their GP, than to see a therapist as their first stop, if you will.
Right.
And so it's critical that we, address misinformation at every kind of stage of the treatment process.
100%. Those are the first line of defense in that sense. And if they can, if a nurse or a pediatrician or even a hairstylist, right, can
Yeah.
identify the signs and then meet that person with compassion and resources, it changes the whole game of recovery. And that's exactly why we're doing Awareness Week, is so that we can spread information, not misinformation, good information
Yeah.
about BFRBs, so that folks will be able to make that happen when they see it come up in their families, or if they're treatment professionals of other kinds, right? Professionals of other kinds.
Yeah.
You mentioned stigma and shame. Two sides of the same coin. Could you,
Mhm.
maybe not to you, but I'd love to to get your take on the relationship between stigma and shame.
That's such a great question. And I think there's so many ways you can measure each of them, right? And I think if you were talking to, a quantitative social scientist, it would be like we operationalize, or we put those terms into numbers in very different ways and things that we measure. But when I think about stigma and shame, I do think about, they both have a social component. And so stigma, has this kind of flare of social judgment. But stigma is not a feeling in and of itself. The feeling that comes from stigma is often shame, and that's kind of the felt sense internally. It would be the shame, and then I see the stigma as kind of like if you will, the more external force, the societal pressures, the social element.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you see it? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was beautifully put. That idea of like the stigma comes from sort of the external judgment, right? From other people, like, ew, that's gross. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the shame comes from taking that in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And letting that be part of your identity in a sense. Like, oh yeah, that is like, you don't even realize you're doing it kind of. But again, with Awareness Week and with talking about these conditions in new ways, we can help the community, and we are helping the community change their the way they look at the behaviors, the people that have these conditions, so that they feel less shame. So that's a lot of the work that we do in the Habit Aware online collective, where we take people on this journey of shifting their mindset, building awareness of their hands, building awareness of mind-body connection, and shifting these mindsets, so that that stigma doesn't get to us. But I
Mm-hmm.
love what you said in terms of like, yes, the external, it's like the external force that messes with the internal. And going back to your research, so tell us a little bit about like when you were looking at these treatment professionals, maybe that's not the right term, or medical professionals, sort of who were you looking at to see, and from that first line of defense, and what did you find? Like, what kind of questions were you asking, and what did you find?
Yeah, so, I'm going to give the caveat that, like, this was kind of a small explorational study. And so, I hesitate to make broad sweeping judgments. And at the same time, I do think it was really interesting to look at. I basically looked at medical students and compared them to social work students, and used kind of a variety of scales that are intended to assess stigma. And some of that is like, desire for social distance. So, would someone with a BFRB, I looked specifically at skin picking, like would you want to share a carpool with someone with skin picking? Would you hold hands? Like, that's kind of what social distance scale looks at. And then I did like a number of different measures. The reason I focused on skin picking was also because there's a number of studies that have come out from UPenn actually, about stigma towards people with psoriasis, which is another skin-related condition that can have mental health effects, but does not have mental health causes, if you will. Um, Again, that's kind of complicated because everything is mind-body connected and interrelated. Um, and so I really did my best to model the study off of that work,
Okay.
and then apply it to skin picking. So, and really it was interesting to see. I saw, some statistically significant differences between the medical student group and the social work student group. I'm wondering if people have guesses or predictions on who would be, you know, the least stigmatizing, if you will. I know my own bias was that, oh, the mental health professionals are going to be, much more like, understanding, and they'll endorse less stigma. And I actually saw something different in the data, with the medical provider, like the medical students,
Mm-hmm.
actually endorsing less on scales of stigma. And so it raises a lot of questions for me because, of course, it was a small sample size. It was in one particular geographic region. But is that a trend we would see were we to study more people? And also, why would that be occurring? Is it because people in the medical field, have more comfort dealing with those who have physical symptoms, especially when it's quite visible, and if there might be scabs, if there might be scars on their patients? Or is it related to something else? So yeah, really, as good research does, it leaves you with a lot more questions than answers. Mhm.
That is the rub of research, isn't it?
It
It's,
really is. Oh,
it
and the cat is coming to say hello as
all
well.
right, all right, all right.
Um, I'm a
But
big fan of having the tactile input.
nope, nope.
Um, but I think what I really see too is like people have a bid for connection. And so that's, what makes stigma so damaging is because it breaks down those opportunities for social connection. And, we can talk about changing behavior, we can talk about changing mindset, but we can also talk about changing like healing professions, and healing professionals. So,
It's so true. It's so true. It's like even the other day, like we're constantly judging each other, what we're wearing, what kind of car we're driving, and
mhm.
it may not be stigmatizing, but sometimes it is, right? Like when I grew up, I wasn't a cool kid because I wasn't wearing the right sneakers or I didn't have the right handbag, right? And like so it
Yeah.
is
Oh my
stigmatizing,
God, I wore khaki
right?
pants every day. I was definitely not the cool kid, unfortunately.
And then we just kind of when we grow up, like we we don't like to be judged, and yet we're constantly all judging each other. And so I think
Yeah.
just in general, being able to, again, this is where just the idea of the power of awareness, when you're aware, then you can change, right? And so like go about the rest of your day and see like, oh, are you judging that driver for being too slow? Are you judging that person walking across the street for whatever, right? Like it's so innate, it's so like quick, we don't even realize that we're making these opinions and judgments about other people, about ourselves. And when we can move slower, we can change that. We can give each other that love that we deserve. And I think it's so important, even if your sample size was small, you still found some truth there, right? That because people don't know about these conditions, that's it, right? Once people know about these conditions, once people meet someone with these conditions, it changes their perception and their perspective, and that judgment go switches into compassion, into how can I help you? How can I be there for you? And that's why we do the work that we do. That's why we are going to be as vocal as possible during this week, to raise awareness, to shatter shame, shatter stigma.
Yeah.
Um,
And really thinking about how globalized that effort has become too is something, I'm really appreciating about being here today because, all of that judgment too, it's such a universal experience. And, in American culture, it definitely, there's a lot of forces and social media sometimes being one of them, right? That is kind of encouraging that judgment, often to the detriment of people's well-being.
yeah, yeah, and I love that you mentioned the internationality of all of this, because Mallory lives in Pennsylvania. I live
Yeah.
in Minneapolis. We met in
In
the UK.
Right. Oh my gosh, like this time last year.
Yeah. So in the UK this time last year at Oxford University, BFRB UK in Ireland, which is the nonprofit there, along with Dr. Claire McKay from the University of Oxford, put a conference on. And both Mallory and I, that's where we met. We met online a little bit before, but we met in person there, which is pretty awesome. Just how big and beautiful and loving this community is, and how well it works together to spread good information. And one of the things you'll see, I did invite BFRB Changemakers on here. BFRB Changemakers is a nonprofit based here in the US. And unfortunately, you can't see everything that BFRB Changemakers does, but it is centering lived experience to help people reduce these behaviors, reduce the shame, increase awareness, and improve access to care by training treatment professionals, as well as supporting the community through events and simply just encouraging joy. And so those pillars that BFRB Changemakers nonprofit, it is a nonprofit I started 3 years ago to help the community and to fill some gaps that were caused a few years ago. And we are fundraising this week for BFRB Changemakers nonprofit. Habit Aware is the for-profit company that I run, and Habit Aware is BFRB Changemakers marketing and operations partner, so that every dollar that gets sent to BFRB Changemakers can go to its mission of supporting the community and the people in it and the treatment professionals that need this training, so that they can improve their outcomes. So that's just so you understand the relationship between all of that. regardless whether it's habit aware or change makers, Anila's heart is behind it because I too have suffered from hair pulling condition and have turned that pain into purpose, much in the same way that Mallory is doing now, taking that pain that you experienced as a younger person, now putting that energy and effort into trying to understand more about it through research. Tell us more. What's next for you in BFRB research or in your work?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's something I'm thinking a lot as I'm kind of at, a little bit of a turning point. So currently, I am working at an outpatient group practice. And so my goal over the next 2 years is to deepen my clinical skills. And so, really fancy way of saying just like sitting in the room with people. Not all of my clients have BFRBs. I'm at a trauma focused psychodynamic practice. So, what that means is we really focus on the therapy relationship as a vehicle for change, as a way for people to, experience their emotions in a new way, in a safe enough container that exists separate from their outside world and relationships, and then really use that to kind of model and explore and play with new ways of being in connection with each other. So that's kind of the lens of therapy that I'm, exploring, getting my feet wet in right now, in the hopes and with the curiosity of how that can then be, applied to the BFRB community. And so, I've got 2 years where I work under supervision and get, weekly clinical feedback and supervision on my cases so that I can be the best therapist that I can be. And then I'm kind of hoping to launch from that experience and see kind of what new questions it opens up for me. I always have a million, so.
That's Yeah, I mean, I think that curiosity is so needed, and I love that you mentioned the psychodynamic approach. I have to ask, have you read Stacey Nickell's book? Have you talked with her? Have you?
I've read Stacey's
Okay.
book. I actually, Stacey, if you're there, I need to send you an email. I also am, I think I'll speak about it just because I do think it's a testament to how generous this community is. So, for people that are thinking of starting support groups or wondering about if there are support groups in their country or near them, I would always recommend trying to reach out to people who are doing the work, maybe in other places, because I find 9 times out of 10 in this community, people are willing to talk to you. They're willing to share their experiences. People come to the work with a lot of passion. Um, I just saw Pavitt, who was here from the UK, another psychodynamic practitioner who applies that lens, and she works really well in terms of like people's intersectional identities and bringing in, their cultural history, racial identity, gender into the therapeutic encounter and looking at how that shapes BFRBs. Um, Stacey's work focuses on a lot of internal conflicts and really being able to address those in the space and find expression. Every behavior is an expression of something. And it's just a very generous group of people. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in that work to, I don't know, just reach out and you never know what may happen.
Yeah, I have to echo the community is so open-armed. Email, just DM folks. They're ready to chat. They're ready to help, get you the right resources, and help you shift some of these mindsets. To that point, Jess says, at least for me, I feel like the personal shame and stigma is the most difficult. It can be isolating. Thank you for sharing all this great information. So going back to that shame and stigma, what's something you may want to tell the Jesses of the BFRB community that are with us right now and will watch the replay? What's something around shame and stigma? How can we help folks not feel like that is the most difficult and not feel so isolated because of that shame and stigma? What's one thing you'd want to tell them about shame and stigma?
Hmm, that's such a powerful question. And I also find myself thinking of what I would have wanted to hear or what would have resonated to me as a younger person. And I think one of the things is to just acknowledge that it's really hard. Like, some days are really hard and you feel lonely and you feel exhausted, sometimes even physically, because it's a physical behavior. Um, and I feel like having that normalized or at least acknowledged um, can mean a lot. Because there's no kind of like guidebook out of that. And I also know a lot of us have some of those perfectionist tendencies, and maybe if I do X, then Y, and maybe I need to breathe more, or maybe I need to do more yoga and do all the things, do all the things that make you feel good on the inside. Um, but also know that it's like it's okay if it's hard. Um,
I love that acknowledgement of just, yeah, it's a roller coaster. Recovery is a roller coaster. Um, to me, I mean, there's a lot of different perspective shifts that have helped me shatter shame.
yeah.
And I think one of the ones that has helped me a lot is just recognizing that everyone has something, right? Everyone that's judging us for hair pulling, skin picking, nail biting has something that they're not proud of, that they're doing, that they're struggling with. And so knowing that we are in it together and knowing that, like, just because they don't understand this doesn't mean I have to take on, and just because they're judging us doesn't mean I have to take their judgment, right? And meeting that person with compassion, that they just don't know what they just don't know, right? They're just ignorant. And the other thing that's really helped with the shame and the stigma is recognizing that this is a chronic health condition, right? A lot of people will, without knowing and understanding, hair pulling, skin picking, nail biting, it's just a bad habit. But this is a mental health, a health condition. And like many health conditions, it is about learning to manage and making it small in your life. So Alyanushka 345 is asking, is there any full recovery? And I would say yes, depending on what your definition of recovery is. So
Mm,
I am 100%
that's
shame free
perfect,
now.
right?
I am 100% shame free now and 90% pull free. And that to me is fully recovered because I know how to take care of myself now. And in the last few years, like, there's never been a point where I haven't been able to bounce back. Oh, sorry. Mallory, what do you think there? Is there any full recovery?
I was just thinking about how powerful that is, and wondering what it feels like to say that right now, to look back on these years and this time and to be able to, stand here with such confidence. Um, it's powerful. It's powerful. Um, I think, yeah, I think I believe in the roller coaster.
Mhm.
Um, and I think most things in life aren't linear, and um, I think, yeah.
I mean, I think you're right. Life itself is a roller coaster. So, and these behaviors come and go with life, right?
Yeah, and with
And
stress
so,
and schedule and sometimes season and there's seasons of
hormones,
life.
right? There's so many things that go into it. So that's why your definition of recovery, if it's stopping completely, then no, there's no full recovery. But if it's, can I make it small in my life? Can I make it something that I can retrain my brain to healthier strategies so that if I pull two hairs, I can say, oh, it's time to go to bed, or oh, I need my water, and go do that consciously with conscious control, with awareness, then yes, I believe recovery is possible.
And you
But
also change your relationship with it. It's not like,
yes,
oh my God, I just pulled two hairs. Like, I've ruined it. I ruined
right,
today.
right.
It's okay. this is like a cue from my body that I need something right now.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
just like any other feeling or sensation. And there's really interesting work too about how we literally feel things on our bodies and how that's different in everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and I think where I hesitate on the recovery question too is that to say that there's not recovery is not to say there's not hope. You know, like
Yes, yes.
there is, and so it's like such a rich conversation to think about. You know, are you also like, are you kind of fighting this condition that you have? Is it a struggle, or are you learning like how you want your relationship with
Yeah.
BFRBs to be? Sometimes neutralizing language, just like, hello, old friend, like you're here today, um, is different than like, this is my enemy that I need to conquer,
Exactly.
which kind of comes from more narrative therapy work, is, you know, how do you label that character, if you will, in your life?
Yeah, I love that. I like that thought of like the BFRB is something else in your life, right? It's not you. Like just because it's your hands, it's not you. It's your subconscious. It's that reptile brain. You're not in control. And that gives it some distance, right? So that you can work through. And I just want to echo Jess mentioning that roller coaster, right? Young, stopped for 10 years and then started again a few years ago. And then I bet you something happened a few years ago, right? Life happened. And what, your brain didn't have healthy coping mechanisms. So it went back to what it knew, right? And so that's the work of continually retraining your brain so that you have these new go-tos, new healthy strategies that you can use, that over time become the go-to, reducing the behavior, helping you manage, just like someone with diabetes, right? Recovery for a diet for someone with diabetes is managing every day, is that continuous glucose monitor, right, every day, is eating right every day, is walking every day, is sleeping right every day. And same with BFRBs. Every day is a new day to take care of yourself. And when you do, your hands are quiet. They don't need to be that signal that Mallory's talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes they can be self-soothing, and if you're in a moment where that's what you need, then that happens,
Yeah,
right? And then there's time to kind of explore that later on.
exactly.
Um, it's all, I would like to think of it always as like, these are all data points. This behavior is all, it's all a data point, which maybe is a little nerdy. Um,
There's the
but
researcher coming out.
yeah, but to me, it's like that helps me get
Yeah,
the data I need from the behavior. Um, and I'm like, okay, this is where we're at today, you know?
100%. Yeah, it's information that you can use to choose
Hmm.
healthier strategies, right? If you understand why it's happening in the moment, then you can choose the next right healthy action. I want to just address Olenyushka's question about what do I mean by shame free. So
Hmm.
we're talking about shame, right? We're talking about shame and stigma. Shame is that feeling of like, God, it's like, how do you even describe shame, right? Shame is that like, don't look at me, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I was gonna say it's that feeling of wanting to hide,
wanting
like
to hide.
very physical reaction to it. It's
Yep,
very physical.
yep.
Um,
And as a child, so I pull from my eyebrows and my eyelashes and my pubic hairs. I also have nose picking tendencies where causing my nose to bleed, uh, cheek biting and lip picking, and mostly the eyebrows, eyelashes was what caused the most shame for me was because I always was scared that someone would notice I didn't have eyelashes, I didn't have eyebrows, that I was penciling them in. And so what I mean by shame free is that shame is a big part of that feeling of shame, that feeling of hiding, that secret that we hold on to is a part of the condition itself, right? But with these perspective shifts, with these mindset shifts, with taking control of my hands and learning how to take better care of myself and retraining my brain and being able to regrow my hair and have that awareness that now, like, you know, you can see a little gap right here. I pulled a little bit, but I'm coming off the conference weekend that we just threw together for the great big BFRB get together this weekend. And I've been like riding a high and excited. So, you know, I know why it's happening. I gave myself grace instead of shaming myself. That's what it means to be shame free. To no longer let the fact that the BFRB is happening make me feel lesser than. And that's part of it, right? So that's why I'm 100% shame free now. I don't want to say I don't care that the behavior is happening, but I don't let it get to me the way that I used to. I do care that it's happening because it is my signal to go do right by me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the 90% pull free, right? Because there is still that little, you know, that little bit that I'm going to pull a little bit, but I'm going to use
Maybe
that.
perfection's not the goal, you know?
Yes, exactly. Perfection is not the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's beautiful too how you describe, living shame free as it is an active practice. And there was work that it took to get there, but there's also work you kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but that, that I still do every day to kind of maintain that.
Yeah.
Because all the time you're bombarded by different messages, whether it's about what you should look like or what you should or shouldn't do. And reducing shame is a kind of a daily practice.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Finding things you're proud of.
Yeah. Changing the narrative in our minds, right?
Yeah.
That's part of it. Alanushka, sorry,
No, you're good. I'm
Alanushka.
actually getting all the questions, so I'm leaving it to you.
Oh, you can't see them. Okay, got it. All right.
No worries. I saw some
Okay.
of the first ones, but they disappeared, so
Yeah.
I'm flying blind, but that's okay.
Okay. No worries, no worries. I got Alanushka's asking how to retrain the brain. So, um, Mallory, do you wanna take this, or do you wanna me to go first, and then you wanna add color?
Yeah, either way, we can both kind of jump in because I think it's a very big question, right? And I think there's how to retrain the brain, and then there's also, your brain.
Yeah.
And your brain is often like a unique product of like your innate kind of hardwired biology and also your, environment and your life experiences. And so, I think there are different models and some have more kind of research based than others. Like I'm sure you hear a lot about CBT. And then sometimes it's really hard to make, like for people with BFRBs, it's often found that it's very difficult to maintain the treatment gains that you see in CBT after the 3 or 6 month mark. And so, other therapies emerge, and CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. So it really focuses on um, changing the behavior and changing the thought associated with the behavior. And so the idea, one of the terms in there is behavioral activation. So if put in like a sensory blocker, so maybe you wear gloves, then you notice when you're lifting up, or you have a habit aware bracelet that has a vibration when you engage in the motion. And Anila can definitely speak more to that than I can. But there's kind of ways of raising awareness
Yeah.
of patterns that have become very automatic. And then there's also replacement behaviors. So, reaching for that coloring book, playing with the silly putty, things like that. Um, and then there's also like longer term work that sometimes focuses on like, where did this behavior emerge? What is the focus of this behavior? It has a self-soothing purpose. What are the other ways that we can soothe? And so, rewiring is a nice image for something that can be a really messy process.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I echo kind of everything you just said. I think the way that I think about it is our brains are not fixed, right? There's that concept of neuroplasticity. I think of it like the neurons firing. There's these different pathways, these different highways, and those BFRB highways are just really, really solid roads, right? So there's something happens and the brain says, "Oh, I can't handle this," or I need to get back to baseline. I'm going to do this to bring me back, right? To calm me down or to help me stay awake, or help me focus, whatever it may be. And every time it does that, that highway is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So retraining the brain to us in habit aware is all about that awareness, right? That's what the bracelet's meant for, is to bring awareness to the physical so that you can then become aware of the mind body connection of what's happening. Why are you feeling that way? What are you thinking about? What are you doing? And use that information to choose the right healthy strategy for the moment. And the more that you do that, the more that you are making these new neural pathways in the brain, telling your brain, this is what we do instead. This is what we do instead. We're not going down this highway, we're going down this road. We're not going down this highway, we're going down this road. And the more you do that, that road, that dirt path becomes a road, becomes a highway. That's why, like, right now, rather than me messing around with this, I can sense my mouth getting dry because I'm usually drinking water all day long as one of my strategies, right? So, like, I know that I'm nervous, I'm anxious, may not look like it, but it's inside, right? And I know my water's all the way over there, right? But my brain, that pathway, get water, it's just in my brain. Like as soon as we get off this call, I'm gonna go fill that up and chug, right? So that's how you retrain the brain.
And
And
I'm gonna go take a run.
yeah, there you go, right? And so,
Find that I have a lot of energy and
yep,
helpful to have ways to let it out.
exactly. So it's learning what's right for your brain, what's right for you
Yeah.
in that moment, right? And Alyanushka, you mentioned your daughter has the keen bracelet, but's not wearing it constantly. 100%. You know, the gym sneakers are not going to work if you don't take yourself to the gym, right? Or if you don't do the running that Mallory's talking about, right? You're not going to get fast if you don't wear the sneakers and actually use them. But that's okay. We have a free video training call, so you can email support@habitaware.com. Let's find out. Let's talk to your daughter. Let's talk to you. Let's see what we can do to help make sure that it's working properly so that she will feel that confidence to wear it consistently so that that retraining can occur. And then I just want to pull down a little bit. Jess mentions I wear a bonnet when I'm feeling like it's too much. It helps remind me, and low key makes me forget sometimes. It's interesting. Yeah. So that's.
Barrier.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, just how powerful like some sort of barrier method can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly that.
And how
Yeah.
people use such a range of strategies. And it can be, you know, I always kind of, again, I think about it like getting to be a scientist for yourself, and you can test different strategies and, kind of like you try different things. And for some people, different things work differently. And that's okay.
Yeah. So true. That's what we say. We say, put your white lab coat on, pretend you're the scientist, and observe
Yeah.
without judgment. Right?
Yeah. A good scientist is not judging their subjects, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
You're there to observe and find the senses. And I think your own mindfulness towards like different sensations, whether it's taste or smell or or touch, engaging all of those senses is such an interesting and kind of fun part of BFRB treatment. Like that's why I like this path as a clinician too, is there's a lot of creativity involved. Um, and, it can feel daunting and like, what do I try? Where do I go next? But I think there is also beauty in the fact that there's not one answer. And it's kind of, there can be some fun and some play in trying all of these different things. And really trying to engage as many of your different senses as possible for something that does serve like a sensory regulating, function.
I love that you bring up fun and play because one of the other things we try to champion here at Habit Aware is that idea of your childlike self holds the clues. So whatever brought you joy as a child, you need to bring it back. You need to engage with it in whatever way, shape, or form makes sense for you today. Because when you do those types of things, when you're telling yourself before the BFRB happens, right? Like make carved out time to do these things that you love. You were telling your brain, I got you. You're safe. You don't need to signal me with my hands with these behaviors because taking you care of you beforehand, right? So I love that. Play is so important even as you age,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
and
it
even
brings
more
in
so.
different facets of your identity as well. And I think that resonates with me when you talk about, being able to make or feel like the behavior is occupying a smaller space in your life. Because like any person, there's a lot of different parts of you. And finding ways to kind of lean into, that childlike place or that creative place inside of yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe there's also the picking and pulling part. And it's just they're going to occupy different amounts of yourself at different times, and having some intentional ways to build in strategies.
I just froze.
Oh, you're good.
I'm back.
You
That was
are.
like me, not the technology. I just froze.
That's okay.
It just hit me that we are well past time, and I
You
was
were
like, oh my gosh.
no, you were deep in thought, and I've been enjoying our
Yeah,
conversation.
I was
Um,
like in my
we'll
mind.
have to go at 4. But I was like, we got started a little late, so
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
if we're on a roll, we're on a roll, right?
Yeah, I was, that was like, I had this little conversation in my head while I was quiet just now. I was like, oh my God, we are way over. And then I was like, oh, she would have said something by now.
Oh,
It was
100%,
but thank you all
100%.
for being here. Please check out bfrbchangemakers.com, habitaware.com. We are here for you in a myriad of different ways. Mallory, can you tell folks how to stay in touch with you? Follow Mallory's account?
Yeah, probably the best way is to follow me, send me a DM. If you are in the Philadelphia area, I'm around, but that's probably the best way to connect. I'm not here in like a clinical perspective today. I'm really just here as a community member. And so, if there's pressing clinical things, I would urge you to connect with, a provider who is in your area, and has availability. But for anything kind of community related or interest about research, things like that, please feel free to just DM me.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. All of this comes from our lived experience and our understanding of helping others. Um, but really from that community perspective, that sort of support that we give and get in the community. And if you're here, you are part of that community. So sign up for the BFRB Changemakers newsletter, sign up for the Habit Aware newsletter so you can get good information and find out more about the events that we put on to help the community. Thank you, thank you, thank you all.
All right. Thanks,
Right.
Anila. Now go get some water, okay?
Yeah, I've been drinking my pomegranate juice. I
Ah,
promise. It's not
good.
wine. Too early in the
Good.
day for wine. All
As it
right.
should be. Well, thanks everyone for
Thank
joining.
you.
Really appreciate being here. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.